sound of coins dropping and trade ships in the distance. Welcome to L's Learn English Through Story. I'm Harry, your host for today's adventure. Get ready, everyone, because this story will take you on an exciting journey about something that affects every single person on Earth: trade wars and tariffs. Have you ever wondered why the price of your phone suddenly goes up, or why some product disappear from stores? Today's story is like a giant chess game between countries, but instead of pieces, they move money, goods, and economic power. This is important because what happens between big countries like America, India, and Russia changes everything, from the food you eat to the job your parents have. Our friend Tom has prepared an incredible story that reads like a thriller novel, but it's all real. Tom will take us through the dramatic world of international trade where presidents make decisions that shake the entire world economy. So grab a cup of tea, sit back, and let Tom tell you this amazing story about trade wars, tariffs, and how countries play the biggest money game in history. Tom, take it away.
Chapter 1, The Big Announcement. Hello everyone, Tom here, and what a story I have for you today. Imagine you wake up one morning and the news says that everything you buy from another country will cost 25% more money. This is exactly what happened when President Trump announced new tariffs on India. Let me paint you this picture. It's a cold morning in Washington, D.C. The president sits in the White House looking at reports about trade. These reports show him numbers, billions of dollars moving between countries every day. But something makes him angry. He sees that America buys more from India than India buys from America. This difference is called a trade deficit. The president picks up his phone and writes on social media, India will face 25% tariffs on all goods plus additional penalties for trading with Russia. Within minutes, this message travels around the world. In New Delhi, India's capital, government officials receive emergency phone calls. In Moscow, Russian leaders watch the news carefully. In New York, stock market numbers start changing rapidly. Why does this matter to you? Well, think about your favorite products. Maybe you love Indian tea, or your family uses Indian spices for cooking. Perhaps your computer has parts made in India. Suddenly, all these things become more expensive. The shopkeeper who sells these products must pay 25% more to the government when these goods enter America. Who pays this extra cost? You do when you buy these products. This announcement creates what economists call a ripple effect. Like throwing a stone into a calm lake, the waves spread everywhere. Indian companies that sell to America suddenly worry about their future. American companies that buy cheap Indian materials now face higher costs. Workers in both countries wonder if their jobs are safe. But this story is bigger than just America and India. The president also mentions a penalty for countries that trade with Russia. This adds another layer to our drama, because India and Russia have been friends for many years. Chapter 2, Understanding Tariffs, the Tax on Foreign Goods. Let me explain tariffs in a simple way. Imagine you run a small bakery in your town. Every day you make fresh bread and sell it to your neighbors. Life is good and business is steady. Then one day, a big bakery from another town starts selling bread in your area. Their bread costs less because they make thousands of loaves every day, and they can afford to sell cheaper. This is similar to what happens between countries. American companies compete with Indian companies. Sometimes Indian companies can make the same products for less money because workers in India earn less, or because the Indian government helps these companies in different ways. So what does the American government do? They create tariffs. A tariff is like a special tax that only applies to products from other countries. When an Indian company wants to sell its products in America, they must pay this extra tax at the border. This makes their products more expensive, so American companies can compete better. Here's how it works in practice. Let's say an Indian company makes smartphones. Each phone costs $200, 0 cents to make. They want to sell it in America for $300, 0 cents. But now, with a 25% tariff, they must pay $75, 0 cents extra tax to the American government. So the phone now costs $375, 0 cents in American stores. The Indian company has three choices. First, they can increase the price and hope people still buy their phones. Second, they can keep the same price and earn less money. Third, they can try to make their phones cheaper, but this is very difficult. Meanwhile, American phone companies become happy. Their phones that cost $350, 0 cents, now look like a better deal compared to the Indian phones at $375, 0 cents. This protects American jobs and companies, which is exactly what President Trump wants to achieve. However, this system also has problems. American customers now pay more for phones. If they can't afford the more expensive phones, they might not buy any phone at all. This hurts both American and Indian companies. It's a complex game where everybody wins something and loses something. The word tariff comes from an old Arabic word meaning to inform or to notify. Originally, tariffs were just lists that informed traders about taxes they needed to pay. Today, tariffs have become powerful weapons in economic wars between countries. Chapter 3: India's economic relationship with America. To understand why this tariff announcement is so important, we need to look at the friendship between America and India. These two countries are like business partners who work together on many projects, but sometimes they disagree about money. Every year, America and India trade goods worth over $150 billion, 0 cents. This means they buy and sell products worth more than the entire economy of some countries. America buys many things from India: medicines, computer services, textiles, jewelry, and spices. India buys from America too: airplanes, machinery, oil, and advanced technology. But here's the problem that makes President Trump angry. India sells about $75 billion, 0 cents worth of goods to America every year. America only sells about $50 billion, 0 cents worth of goods to India. This $25 billion, 0 cents difference is called a trade deficit. President Trump believes this difference shows that the trade relationship is not fair. Let me tell you about Rajesh, an imaginary Indian businessman who exports textiles to America. Rajesh runs a factory in Mumbai, where 500 people make beautiful clothes for American stores. His factory produces shirts, dresses, and suits that American families wear every day. Rajesh's business has grown steadily for 10 years. He has contracts with big American clothing companies, and his workers depend on these jobs to feed their families. When Rajesh hears about the 25% tariff, he becomes very worried. His American customers will have to pay much more for his clothes. Some customers might cancel their orders and buy clothes from other countries instead. Rajesh calculates that he might lose 30% of his business. This could mean firing 150 workers, which breaks his heart because these workers are like family to him. On the other side of the world, in Texas, there's an American businessman named Mike who runs a computer services company. Mike's company has a partnership with an Indian software company. Indian programmers write computer programs for Mike's American customers. This partnership works well because Indian programmers are very skilled and cost less than American programmers. The new tariffs might affect Mike's business too. If the American government creates more restrictions on trade with India, Mike might have to find new partners in other countries. This could increase his costs and make his company less competitive. The story of Rajesh and Mike shows us something important. In today's world, countries are connected like pieces of a puzzle. When you change one piece, it affects all the other pieces. Chapter 4: The Russia Factor, a complex triangle. Now, let's add another player to our story, Russia. The relationship between America, India, and Russia is like a triangle, where each side has different interests and friendships. India and Russia have been friends for over 50 years. During the Cold War, when America and Russia were enemies, India chose to be friends with both countries. This policy is called non-alignment, which means India doesn't take sides in conflicts between big powers. Today, India buys many things from Russia, especially oil and military equipment. About 20% of India's oil comes from Russia. Indian soldiers use Russian tanks, planes, and weapons. This trade relationship is worth billions of dollars every year. But America doesn't like this friendship. Since 2022, America and its allies have been trying to punish Russia economically because of the conflict in Ukraine. They want all countries to stop buying Russian products. When India continues to buy Russian oil, American leaders feel frustrated. President Trump's announcement includes a penalty for countries that trade with Russia. This creates a difficult situation for India. Imagine you have two good friends, but these friends hate each other. They both want you to choose sides. This is exactly India's problem. Let me tell you about Dr. Priya, an imaginary Indian government official who works on foreign policy. Dr. Priya's job is to make decisions that help India's economy while keeping good relationships with all countries. She faces a very difficult choice. If India stops buying Russian oil, oil prices in India will increase dramatically. This means Indian families will pay more for gasoline, cooking gas, and electricity. Indian factories will face higher costs, making their products more expensive. The Indian economy could slow down, and people might lose jobs. If India continues buying Russian oil, America might impose more penalties. American companies might stop doing business with Indian companies. American tourists might visit India less. India might lose access to American technology and investment. Dr. Priya looks at maps and reports every day, trying to find the best solution. She knows that every decision affects millions of people in India. She also knows that India needs good relationships with both America and Russia to prosper. This situation shows us how complicated international relationships can be. Countries can't just think about themselves. They must consider how their actions affect their relationships with many other countries. Chapter 5: Global Economic Impact, the Domino Effect. When big countries like America impose tariffs, it's like dropping a stone in a pond. The waves spread far beyond the original point of impact. Let me show you how President Trump's tariff announcement affects people around the world. First, let's visit China. Chinese manufacturers who compete with Indian companies suddenly see a new opportunity. If Indian products become 25% more expensive in America, Chinese companies can offer better prices. Factory owners in Shanghai and Guangzhou start planning to increase production. They hire more workers and buy more raw materials. But wait, this creates new problems. If Chinese factories need more cotton to make clothes, cotton prices go up worldwide. This affects farmers in Egypt, Brazil, and other countries who grow cotton. They're happy because they can sell their cotton for higher prices, but clothing companies everywhere must pay more for materials. Next, let's fly to Germany. German car companies that have factories in India start worrying. They use these Indian factories to make car parts that they sell in America. With new tariffs, their costs will increase. Mercedes-Benz and BMW executives have emergency meetings to discuss their strategies. Some companies decide to move their factories from India to other countries like Vietnam or Mexico. This process takes years and costs millions of dollars. Indian workers who built cars for German companies might lose their jobs, while workers in other countries get new opportunities. In Japan, electronics companies face similar decisions. Sony and Panasonic have partnerships with Indian companies to make components for smartphones and computers. These partnerships might become too expensive because of the tariffs. Now let's look at how this affects ordinary families around the world. The Johnson family in Ohio used to buy affordable Indian tea and spices from their local supermarket. With 25% tariffs, these products become much more expensive. Mrs. Johnson might switch to tea from other countries, or she might decide to drink less tea to save money. Meanwhile, the Kumar family in Mumbai depends on Mr. Kumar's job at a textile factory that exports to America. When American orders decrease because of higher prices, Mr. Kumar's factory reduces working hours. The Kumar family earns less money, so they buy fewer products and services. This affects the local grocery store, the bus company, and even the school where Mrs. Kumar teaches. This domino effect continues spreading. Airlines that fly between America and India might see fewer passengers as business travel decreases. Hotels in both countries might have fewer guests. Even restaurants that serve Indian food in America might see changes in their costs and customer numbers. Chapter 6: Economic Strategies and Countermoves. Countries don't just accept tariffs quietly, they develop strategies to fight back and protect their interests. This creates a fascinating game of economic chess where each move leads to a countermove. India's government doesn't want to start a trade war, but they also can't ignore these tariffs. They have several options, and each option has advantages and disadvantages. Option 1. India can impose its own tariffs on American products. If America makes Indian goods 25% more expensive, India can make American goods 25% more expensive too. This strategy is called retaliation. It shows America that India is strong and won't accept unfair treatment. But retaliation also hurts Indian consumers. Remember our friend Mike, the American businessman who sells computer services? If India puts tariffs on American technology, Indian companies will pay more for computers, software, and technical equipment. This makes Indian businesses less competitive globally. Option 2, India can find new customers for its products. Instead of selling only to America, Indian companies can focus more on selling to Europe, Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. This strategy is called diversification. The Indian government starts organizing trade missions to Brazil, South Africa, and Indonesia. They offer special deals to encourage trade with these countries. Indian companies that used to focus on the American market start learning Portuguese, Arabic, and other languages to communicate with new customers. Option 3. India can try to negotiate with America. Diplomats from both countries can meet and discuss ways to solve their trade disagreements. Maybe India can agree to buy more American products, and America can reduce the tariffs. These negotiations are like a complex dance. Each side wants to get the best deal possible without making the other side too angry. Indian diplomats might offer to buy more American oil and gas. American negotiators might ask, while governments develop strategies, private companies create their own survival plans. Our friend Rajesh, the textile manufacturer, doesn't wait for governments to solve the problem. He starts exploring new markets in Africa and Latin America. He also invests in better technology to make his products higher quality and more unique. Some Indian companies decide to set up factories in other countries that don't face American tariffs. This strategy is called tariff jumping. An Indian company might build a factory in Vietnam to serve the American market. The products are still made by Indian managers and use Indian designs, but technically they come from Vietnam. This creates interesting situations. Workers in Vietnam get new jobs, but workers in India might lose jobs. The Indian company still makes profits, but the Indian government loses tax revenue. These complex relationships show how globalization makes simple solutions very difficult to find. Chapter 7: Historical Context: Trade Wars Through Time. To understand today's situation better, let's take a journey through history. Trade wars are not new. Countries have been fighting about trade for hundreds of years. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, many countries imposed high tariffs to protect their domestic industries. America passed the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, which increased tariffs on thousands of products. Other countries responded with their own tariffs. Instead of helping, these tariffs made the economic crisis worse. International trade collapsed, and millions of people lost their jobs. This historical lesson teaches us that trade wars can be very dangerous. When countries stop trading with each other, everybody becomes poorer. Workers lose jobs, companies go bankrupt, and families struggle to buy basic necessities. However, tariffs can also serve important purposes. During World War II, countries used tariffs and trade restrictions as weapons against their enemies. America and Britain stopped trading with Germany and Japan, which helped weaken these countries' war efforts. In the 1980s, America had a trade war with Japan. Japanese companies were selling many cars and electronics in America, creating a large trade deficit. American politicians complained that Japan was using unfair trade practices. The two countries negotiated agreements that limited Japanese exports and encouraged Japan to buy more American products. Interestingly, this trade friction didn't destroy the relationship between America and Japan. Today, these countries are close allies and important trading partners. This gives us hope that current trade disputes can also be resolved peacefully. The story of America and Japan also shows us something important about economic development. In the 1960s and 1970s, people around the world looked down on Japanese products. Made in Japan meant cheap and low quality, but Japanese companies worked hard to improve their products and technology. By the 1980s, Japanese cars and electronics were among the best in the world. Today, we see a similar pattern with India and China. 30 years ago, most products from these countries were simple and inexpensive. Now, Indian software companies serve customers worldwide, and Chinese technology companies compete with American giants like Apple and Google. This historical perspective helps us understand that trade relationships constantly change. Today's competitors might become tomorrow's partners. Today's partners might become tomorrow's competitors. Countries that seem poor and weak today might become rich and powerful in the future. The key lesson from history is that cooperation usually works better than confrontation. Countries that trade together become richer together. Countries that fight trade wars often hurt themselves more than their opponents. Chapter 8. Looking forward, possible outcomes and solutions. As our story reaches its conclusion, let's explore what might happen next and how this trade drama might end. Scenario 1. America and India negotiate a compromise. Both countries realize that a trade war hurts everyone. They agree on a plan where India buys more American products and America reduces some tariffs. India might also agree to limit some of its trade with Russia in exchange for better treatment from America. This scenario requires both sides to be flexible and willing to make concessions. It's like two neighbors who have been arguing about a fence. Eventually, they sit down, have coffee, and find a solution that works for both families. Scenario 2. The trade war escalates. India responds to American tariffs with its own tariffs on American products. Other countries choose sides, creating two separate trading blocs. America trades mainly with its allies like Europe and Japan, while India strengthens its relationships with Russia, China, and other countries. This scenario would create a divided world economy, similar to the Cold War period. It could lead to slower economic growth globally, but it might also encourage countries to develop new technologies and find new trading partners. Scenario 3, technology changes everything. New innovations in manufacturing, transportation, and communication make trade disputes less important. Perhaps 3D printing allows countries to make most products locally, reducing the need for international trade. Or maybe new energy technologies make oil less important, changing the relationships between oil producing and oil consuming countries. What can ordinary people do while governments and companies make these big decisions? First, stay informed about what's happening. Understanding trade policies helps you make better decisions as a consumer and citizen. Second, support businesses and policies that promote fair and sustainable trade. When you buy products, consider the working conditions and environmental impact of how they were made. Your choices as a consumer send messages to companies and governments. Third, learn skills that will be valuable in a changing global economy. Languages, technology skills, and cultural understanding become more important as the world becomes more connected and more complex. The story of trade wars and tariffs shows us that we live in an interconnected world. The decisions made in Washington, New Delhi, and Moscow affect families everywhere. Understanding these connections helps us become better global citizens and prepare for the future. Our story today doesn't have a simple ending because it's still being written. Every day, diplomats negotiate, companies adapt, and families adjust to changing economic conditions. The next chapter of this story depends on the choices we all make together.
Wow, what an incredible journey Tom just took us on. From the White House to Mumbai, from trade negotiations to family businesses, we've seen how one announcement can change the world economy. The most important lesson from today's story is that in our connected world, everything affects everything else. When countries impose tariffs, it's not just about politics, it's about real people like you and me, about families trying to make a living, about students planning their futures. Remember, understanding these global events helps you make better decisions in your own life, whether you're choosing what to study, where to work, or even what products to buy. Knowing how the world economy works gives you power and knowledge. This story also shows us the importance of cooperation and understanding between countries and cultures. The challenges we face today, from trade wars to climate change to technology, are too big for any one country to solve alone. We need to work together, learn from each other, and find solutions that help everyone prosper. Thanks for sticking around till the end of the story. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a new story. Have a wonderful day, take care, and see you next time.